Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here. So guys, this is a particular tutorial session which is designed for TestNG in Selenium. So are you a person who is trying to understand more about TestNG in Selenium and just try to get into detail and get a practical hands-on into Selenium? And you might be also be curious to know what is TestNG all about, how to use it in frameworks, right? So this particular tutorial session will be very much useful to you all. It will be a introduction to TestNG, and also we'll be looking at the key advantages over JUnit, and we look at the advantages of TestNG in general and how do we use it in frameworks we'll learn in a future lectures. So stay tuned and do watch the lecture till the end to get a complete understanding on TestNG. So let's get started. So this is my channel. You can go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Yeah. So what is TestNG, right? So TestNG is an automation testing framework in Java. So that uses the concept of annotations. So for you all, if you're listening this annotations word for the first time, this is something like annotations is like a method. Okay, it will be like a method, but it will be having some symbol called as @ and we'll be using a keyword called test, that is this test word, as a part of TestNG. So TestNG means stands for test next generation, right? So here we'll be using the concept of annotations. We'll just write @test, and that will indicate that this is a test case, right? So it's very powerful, and we already have a framework called JUnit. So that JUnit framework was used by the developers for doing unit testing. So for automation testing, we have seen that TestNG is having several advantages over JUnit. So we are going to look at that into detail, right? So it's like an automation testing framework, and we will be using it in our framework development when we use Selenium frameworks, right? Why is TestNG needed, right? So in Selenium, right, it doesn't have any default reporting on its own. If we run a particular Selenium test case, maybe with main method, right? So what we will observe is that it will just show in console that, okay, uh, if in case we apply some assertion, it will show that assertion has passed or failed. And if due to assertion, let's say a test gate got failed, right? So it will abruptly stop in between, saying that the assertion has failed. The expected was something, a particular value, but it has indeed found some other value. So your test case will abruptly get completed without even showing a proper output. But with TestNG, we are going to get a proper report. It will give an indication of how many test cases were there in your suite, how many got passed, how many got failed, how many were skipped. Yes, so we have a feature called skipped as well. So if due to some particular dependent method, a particular other test cases which were dependent on that dependent method did not get executed, then we will call that as method as skipped. So let's say we have got 3 test cases, right? So one test case is dependent on the second test case, and third test case was an independent one. So third test case got executed, but the second one got dependent on the third one. Since third one could not be executed for some reason, even the second one also could not be executed. So basically, your third test case got failed, and because third got failed, your dependent test case got skipped. So we have these kind of facilities with respect to TestNG. So it's very good to have such kind of reports where we can share with our clients, as well as we can share with our management, giving them an exact impression about the overall execution of our test suite. So this is what it's going to help us in our automation testing framework. So we are going to look at detailed features of TestNG in our next slide. So what are the applications of TestNG? Where is that we are using this TestNG in different areas? So it's going to be used widely in Selenium automation, especially with respect to frameworks creation. We are going to use TestNG while we are going to create framework, and it is often used in conjunction with page object model or page factory. And not only this much, it can also be used with other different frameworks which we are going to look at, that is data driven framework, hybrid driven framework, Cucumber BDD. So it can be used with any framework. So that is why compatibility wise, it has got a very wide compatibility, and it's got a lot of advantages and good features. So that's why TestNG is more popular these days. And you can see that with the annotations, it's so simpler that it will be very easy for a new person to understand it and execute it. Right. Now, what is the next point? Next point are the advantages over JUnit. So JUnit is also using annotations, but the annotations are not much richer and higher in number, giving more features as TestNG does. So their annotations are somewhat similar, but they are not in depth as compared to TestNG. And with TestNG, you can get the test cases to be executed in parallel. So if you want to achieve parallel execution of your test methods or your test suite, that can be achieved with TestNG. And here we are also having a feature of grouping. So we can group like few test cases into a group called sanity. We can group some test cases called as, let's say, functional test execution. We can have some test cases like end-to-end execution. Right? So if we want to execute only couple of groups, we may not need to require to run like a entire large test suite. So out of like say 1,000 test cases, if we want to just execute 250 which are like of sanity, so we just have to give a small command in our one particular file called TestNG.xml saying just execute this group of test cases. So instead of doing the configuration of executing each and every test case of 250 individually, we are just going to give a small configuration as a part of our TestNG.xml, and it will be able to execute our entire TestNG of only sanity. So that is the power of TestNG. So we are going to look at that when we look at the practical part. Now, what are the advantages of using TestNG? So it has got much richer and more effective annotations. So when we look at the annotations as an introduction in this session, you will be able to just get a glimpse of why TestNG is so popular. Second advantage is that it allows the test cases to be grouped. So as I discussed earlier, it allows the test cases to be grouped in certain categories. And one more advantage is that when we run the test suite, we often may see that a test case may get failed. So later on, if we want to reduce the execution time, and if we are just interested to run only the failed test cases again, so TestNG gives us very useful feature called TestNG-fail.xml. So once we do one round of execution and once we refresh our particular project, right, we can see that we are having one particular XML file getting generated called as TestNG-fail.xml, which will be a part of your output folder, right? I'll show you that when I create a project in Eclipse. So with that TestNG.xml, TestNG-fail.xml file, if you just run through that, right, we will be able to execute only the failed test cases, just not worrying about the other test cases which are passed. So that's going to be a very useful feature, because let's say we are stuck into some issues and we have to do read execution on priority, and that has to be done on the same day. So this particular feature is going to be so vital, and it's going to just save a lot of our time, right? Another good important feature is that it has got a very good and informative report. As I discussed, it shows a kind of a segregation of how many are passed, how many executed, how many failed, how many are skipped, along with some representation, which is a very useful graphical representation for anyone to understand that. It also does allow execution to be carried out in multiple browsers. So we can carry out the execution in all the different browsers which are supported by Selenium, of course, which are like IE, Firefox, Chrome, Safari. And also it does allow us to execute multiple test cases in parallel. So if, let's say we have multiple test cases in different suites, if we want to execute the test cases faster as well as do much coverage at the same time, then this particular parallel execution is going to be so useful, right? Another advantage is that it takes care of doing the exception handling on its own. Yes, so we are doing exception handling explicitly in Java by using try catch and try catch finally, etc. Right? But in TestNG, we need not worry about any of those kind of things. It's already handled by the TestNG class. So it automatically takes care if any exception is encountered. It does not stop the execution in between, like how a hard assert, like whenever we encounter exception, it will be like a hard stop. We will not be able to execute further. But in TestNG, it's like kind of a soft assert. It allows the execution to proceed further. But at the end, it will show you in the report that of the total test cases, these many have got failed. And it will also give you a reason why it has got failed. And it will give you a line number as well, that which particular line the code has failed. So that will allow us to do better debugging and go deep into the issue analysis. Another thing which I want to point out here is that here, if we want to execute the same test cases, right, multiple times, we don't have to write a loop kind of a thing or a syntax using Java. We can just use one particular attribute in TestNG.xml, which is called as invocation count. So don't just worry about this attribute and all those logistics for now. Just remember that we can do same test case execution multiple number of times as much we want to. We just have to specify a number in one attribute in TestNG.xml. I'll just explain you that. And here we need not have any main method. So there is no main method at all in our program. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Unlike our Java programs, which will always require a main method to start the execution, and that will be the starting point, and then it will decide, okay, this is going to be the flow of my program. But here with TestNG.xml, everything is just so systematic. We don't have to mention anything in like a main method as such in our program. We just have to use annotations and use it to our effect. So I'll explain how the annotations could be used to our advantage using the different attributes which are there as a part of annotations. So it's very simple to understand. Another advantage is that it can be integrated with Maven and Jenkins, which is going to be a very big advantage because when we look into a feature lectures, Maven framework and Jenkins, right? So Jenkins is a continuous integration tool. So just in case you don't know anything about Jenkins, Jenkins is a powerful build tool which is used in continuous integration areas, and so we can do build deployments. We can see the execution history, how much have got failed in the past few days, how much have passed. We can just generate some proper reports in Jenkins. We can schedule builds when we want a particular test case to be run. So it's so advantageous to use any kind of framework with Jenkins, not just for Selenium automation, but even in DevOps. It's so popular. Jenkins is so popular that we can have Jenkins pipeline and we can just schedule a test and run it. So it's so easy and beautiful to integrate with Jenkins. Another popular tool is the Maven. So Maven is like a build management tool, and it's basically on Java. So here basically you can have your dependencies as a part of one, again, another XML file called form.xml. So with that, you don't have to download the relevant or required jars and add it to your project. Maven will just take care of adding it on its own, right? It's going to keep your code systematic and organized into different packages. So you can have your test cases into some particular package. You can have your resources into different packages. So it's going to be very useful to use Maven. So I'll have a session separately on Maven soon after TestNG is done. Yeah, and then we have this TestNG.xml. So this concept is going to be used in frameworks, and whenever we use TestNG, we can just create this TestNG.xml automatically by Eclipse, and that will allow us to control which particular test suites to run, which particular test cases to run, right? It will allow us to do grouping. So there are so much of features in TestNG that it cannot be just covered in one session. So we need to have multiple sessions. So this is going to be the first introductory session on TestNG. Yeah, and the last point which I wanted to just give you all an insight was how does TestNG looks like and how to create a project using TestNG. So let's get on to the practical part. So we'll go to Eclipse. We'll go to creating a project. So let's create a new Java project. It's just like a normal Java syntax. This will say it as TestNG practical session. Okay. So you just have to use TestNG, use JDK as your project JRE, and that is it. You just have to click on finish. Yeah, so we have created a project now, TestNG practical session. Now for using TestNG, there is of course going to be some required jar. You need to have a jar. So I'll explain that. So first thing is that you have to go to your src folder and just create a file, Java file. And you need a jar to be downloaded from the internet. I'll just show you that. So let's create a package. Okay, and what we're going to say here, TestNG demo 1. We don't need to use main method here. We just have to click on finish. Yeah. Now, one important thing to know first of all before you even think of using TestNG in Eclipse is that we have to first install it in Eclipse, and I'll explain you the steps which are there. So the first step is that you need to install in Eclipse. Okay, so I'll explain you how to do that. Second step is that we have to download testng.jar file from Maven repository website and add to your project build path. Yeah, that is it. And then step 3 is just writing scripts. And step 4 I'll show you all is how to convert any project to TestNG project. Right? So that's all you need to have for executing TestNG in your Eclipse. So let's get started. So first step is that we have to install an Eclipse. So I'll just show you how to go about this particular thing. So there are two ways to do that. So TestNG install, just write that, and you can see in Google it gives you suggestion as to how to install Eclipse. There will be a lot of suggestions here. So you just have to copy this website. This is one way. You just have to copy this website. Okay. And as it is giving an indication that you have to go to install new software using Eclipse. So this is the first way to do it. You just have to go to Eclipse and you can see this install new software. That is the first way. So let's just see that. Just put it here. Now, recently what has happened is that with certain versions of Eclipse, you will not be able to install TestNG. So that is my personal experience as well, and what I've been even getting to know from my other students as well. So if you land up into that kind of an issue, I would suggest you go for the latest version of Selenium, which is Photon. With Photon, you will be able to install TestNG successfully. You just have to put this exact URL, and you will be able to see that TestNG will be given as a suggestion here. So this is going to take some time. So it will show you a suggestion here called TestNG. You just have to check it and you just have to click on next, and then you'll be able to complete the installation part. So this is just going to take some time, but I'll just show you. Yeah, I think it has come now. So if you can see here, once you have given this URL, you will be getting this kind of a result. So just expand it, and you can see there are 3 features as a part of this TestNG parent one, which is TestNG, TestNG Maven, and TestNG P2 feature. Right? You can select all if you want. Just click on next, and after that, it will give you some kind of a information or a confirmation, like, do you want to really install this software? Do you trust the authenticity of the software? So just click on OK, and you can just proceed further, and then you should be able to just complete the installation process and click on finish. So once you have done that part, it will install TestNG, but for that you have to restart your Eclipse again. So just restart your Eclipse and you should be able to see. So it's already there in my machine, so I'm just closing it out. So once you restart Eclipse, you should be able to see a TestNG option available. I'll just show you that. Yeah, so this was the first way. You can do it through putting that URL. So I'll again just mention that URL here so that you guys will be able to install it. The other way is that you can install it through Eclipse Marketplace as well. You just have to go to Eclipse Marketplace and go to the search section. This is like kind of like a Play Store kind of a thing. You just have to search what you want and it will give you a suggestion. So there you go, TestNG for Eclipse. So this is the best way to install TestNG in Eclipse. But in case some of you all may not be able to see this Eclipse Marketplace option, maybe depending on the version, whichever you're having in Eclipse installed, you will not be able to see this Marketplace option. So for that scenario, you can go to install new software. That is the only way you can install TestNG. These are the 2 ways you can install TestNG. In case it's already installed in your machine, so it's showing as installed. If you don't have it, it will show you install option. Just click on that. It will again install Eclipse. It will have, sorry, TestNG for Eclipse. It will have the same steps involved. You just have to trust the authenticity of that software. Click on OK and click on finish. Right? Yeah. So once TestNG is installed, you restarted the Eclipse. Now you just have to come back to your Eclipse here, and now you should be just right click on the project and just come down, and you can see here there is an option called TestNG. So if you can see this option, this is an indication that TestNG is available in your Eclipse, and you can go ahead and use it. So you can convert your any project to TestNG using this convert to TestNG option. So we'll just look at that. And another thing is that I have Eclipse Oxygen with me. So it depends on what version you're using. I'm using slightly older version as compared to the latest one, which is Photon. But that's okay. Whichever versions you're using, it, if it is supporting TestNG, that's good. You can just go ahead with that. If you see here, it's Oxygen 2. So after this, Photon got released, and that's very good. So you can go ahead and use that. Okay. So this will be a very small introductory part on TestNG. So firstly, you need to download a jar. So we have already done the first step, installation in Eclipse. Now we have to download the testng.jar file from Maven repository, and let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say testng jar Maven. Just write this 3 keywords. It will give you this Maven repository. Just go to that. Yeah. So here it is. What you have to do now is that just look at, don't go for the beta versions, guys, because beta versions are not like stable ones. They are like work in progress, and they are like being tested. So you go for the ones which are stable and which is having very high usages. So you can go for 6.14.3. It was lastly used in April 2018. So just go ahead and click on this link. And here it is. So here you can download anything. You can download a jar file. You can download a pom.xml for your Maven project. This is the Maven dependency. You can see there are so many tools supported here. Gradle, right? So you can just go ahead and come to this website. So you just have to download this jar file. So it's getting downloaded, and just clicking on keep it. Right. So once we have downloaded, we just have to add it to our project. Yeah. So I'm going to add it to my project. So before you add it directly to your project, I'll just explain you one simpler way. Just do a right click on your project and create a folder, so that you can put all your jars whichever are required into that, like a kind of a library. Just go to src, right click and new folder, right? And here just give a name like lib. So lib, okay, we just have to not have as a package. Basically we should need to have it like a folder. So let's delete this. We need to have it like a folder. So just click on new and click on folder at the project level. So just create a lib. Here we are going to paste our jar. Did you see that? We have pasted a jar into this lib folder, and now we just have to make as a reference from this library, so that whenever you're sharing this project with any other of your colleagues, they need not worry about configuring as a part of their project, because it will be already configured. If you just do a right click, go to build path, right, and go to configure build path. And here there is a multiple options on the right hand side. Just go to add jars and just expand this option, and you can see there is a lib folder. Now you can just select it and click on OK. So it's going to take from your project now. It's not going to take from your local directory, whatever you might be having. So it's very simple and easy to share with your colleagues as well. So just apply and close. That is it. Now you have TestNG as a part of your reference libraries. It has come to reference libraries. So now you can start using TestNG. So I'll just show you one simple annotation, and then we can continue in our next lecture. So this is how we are going to write a test case in TestNG using @test annotation. If you do a mouse over, it is detecting that this is a part of your test class file, right? Which is a part of TestNG library, which we have already imported. So it's asking that to add TestNG library. It is also giving JUnit suggestion as well, but we are not going to go for JUnit. We are going to go for TestNG. So add this TestNG library first. So this has got added now. All the TestNG libraries are added now. Now you just have to do mouse over again and import this test. See, that is it. So it has imported this file. Right now it's showing an error here because this is a constructor, so we cannot use it with constructor. We can use with any method. So let's create a method, public void test demo. Let's say test demo. We have created a method here, and now we are going to use this annotation at the rate test, right? This is a constructor because it is by default created by your Eclipse while we have created the project, right? So at the rate test is going to be our annotation, right? And now there are other annotations as well. I'll just give you a glimpse of those. We have before method, right? I'll explain you what are those, right? So we just have to go on importing these annotations. Similarly, we have after method. So it's so simple to understand what we have to do and what the project has to do. Just copy this and import this after method as well. Okay. And then we have some other annotations as well, but we'll just stick to these three for now, and we'll just look at the other ones in detail in the next lecture along with these ones as well. So this is how we are going to create annotations, right? So with this annotations, it's very easier for the TestNG to give an instruction to the compiler as to how to go about. So this is where your entire test case is going to be. This is what is to be required to be done before you execute this test case, as the name suggests, before. So this is actually called as test method. So before you execute this test method, we are giving instructions as to what to be done inside this block of code. It could be like launching the browser, doing some action initially, doing some configuration part. After method means once our execution is complete of the test method, what do we need to do with the browser? Of course, we would want to maybe close the browser, right? Close the browser or switch back to home page. It could be any kind of this action we might be trying to do, right? So those kind of actions we are going to put in the after method. So hope you found the session useful with the introduction as well as the installation and the basics part. We are going to look at the detailed one in our next lecture. Do stay tuned and do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it. Thank you so much.